Our Bharatiya word for essay is Nibandha. Nibandha. Ni stands for special. Bandha is organized. So Nibandha means carefully and specially organized thoughts presented in equally organized way. So given the existing pattern, you have two sections, A and B, each section having 4 subjects. You are required to pick up one from each and write your essay. But there is no guarantee that the same pattern will hold good. Get ready for a surprise. I have to sincerely hope you enjoy this. Okay? Because I can take this topic, supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. Okay? I can call Shad Ripu, as explained in Indian philosophy, as enemies of our own development. The only criteria for choice of subject is your judgment about your best essay. That's the only criteria. Everything else is not only secondary, everything else is in fact false. While for other papers, we are to have one opening line. For the essay, we are to have an opening paragraph. How do we open our essay? Cheers, everybody. Here we are to enjoy essay. And Chanakya Mandal students are supposed to know that this cheers is restricted only to non-alcoholic drinks. That the only vyasan, addiction, we should be committed to is the addiction towards pursuit of knowledge. Now, I'm going to enjoy my cup of coffee as I interact with you. As always, namaste, and of course, all my eternal, absolute best wishes for all of you. I have prepared for this session on the background of my previous 3 sessions, the links of which Ketan has already sent to you. And I hope you have spared time to listen to those sessions, hopefully take down the notes. More importantly, also think about that content and then start fitting all those points to you, who you are, your personality, your way of thinking, your way of presentation and all. So on that background, I have organized today's session on essay. First of all, let's try to understand its position in UPSC scheme of exam. Why essay? It wasn't there for a long time until way beyond even I gave my attempts. But now it is almost or even over 30 years that essay paper was introduced. From that day one of introduction of essay paper, I was always happy that such a paper is introduced. Because the whole design of the exam is to select officers who are to serve at the highest levels of civil services that run day-to-day administration. So the scheme of exam should be designed to test the basic caliber, the basic stuff, the basic potential Yes, you will go professional training for 2 years. And yes, as you go on handling responsibilities, you will go on growing richer and richer in experience. And what is expected is with the passage of year, as your seniority increases, so should your grasp increase, your ability to understand things. Unfortunately, there is a rather beautiful, funny, but this fun is dark comedy, black humor, a principle called Peter Principle. Peter Principle is also in management science, but it is more valid, considered to be more valid for bureaucracy. Because Peter Principle says in bureaucracy, you are promoted to the highest level of your inefficiency. I am thankful to Sankalp for sending the smiling emoji, although for whatever are technological reasons, he has not uh, kept his video open. But those I'm seeing on the screen, I didn't see them smile when the punchline, it's not the punchline, it's the punch word that suddenly hits the last word in bureaucracy. You are always promoted to your highest level of inefficiency. So with the passage of time, bureaucrats, rather than becoming more efficient, rather than developing wider grasp of issues, they get promoted to their highest level of inefficiency, black comedy, dark humor. But the point is, job of a civil servant demands clarity in thinking and clarity in presentation, both. One in absence of the other will keep a bureaucrat a lesser quality bureaucrat. If you have clarity in thinking, which unfortunately many, if not most of the bureaucrats do miss, clarity in thinking. But clarity in thinking can come only if, first of all, you have understood the issue, the subject, understanding of the subject. Then you will develop clarity in thinking. But then sometimes you will see that people have indeed clarity in thinking. But unfortunately, that clarity in thinking does not express when they write or speak. So clarity in thinking is one aspect, but you also need equal clarity in presentation, how you present your say. Let me share one example which I hope you find creative and also useful for entire UPSC process, including essay paper. 3 days ago, I had to conduct an interview with a certain university. They had asked me to conduct that interview. There was an outstanding research proposal in history, and this research proposal was submitted by a professor who already completed her PhD back in 2009, mind you. She has been teaching since then. She had sent the proposal along with her biodata. The university had forwarded it to me. Now, please note here that her proposal for the research itself was an essay. That's the reason I'm using this example with you. Itself was an essay. Okay. She wanted to explore the Indic or Bharatiya concepts in political science, but as they express in our history. So a lovely subject, of course. Some people thought I know something little about that subject. So they requested me to conduct her interview and decide whether the proposal should be accepted or not. So let me tell you, she had written a beautiful essay on the proposal. Why do we need research on this subject? Explaining the whole thing. Okay. But when in the interview, I started going deeper. I started asking her some critical questions designed to see how she has understood the subject, how she is able to understand the depth of those subjects, and how she is able to present. Unfortunately, there we found the depth missing. But our conclusion was what is missing is not her understanding of the subject. A very correct word we used was interview anxiety. Interview anxiety. So while she had understood the subject, thanks to the occasion, that probably her mind was thinking that now this is critical, how this interview goes. And the entire decision about my research proposal, along with a very substantial scholarship, of course, which will give her full time and energy for 1 full year to concentrate on the research subject. But somewhere in her mind, she thought this is extremely critical. And it all depends on how this interview goes. So maybe pressure of the occasion. Our interpretation was she has understood the subject. She has the requisite depth, but somehow today she was exhibiting the features of interview anxiety. One reason why that could have happened, hold your breath and listen carefully. The university had sent me her biodata, her track record, say completing BA, then masters, 2 masters again. She did masters in history and also masters in economics. Then went on to do research, completed her PhD, then a very competent professor in a very premier institute in India. And her write-up, which I repeat was an essay on the topic, was beautiful. Okay. So when I started conducting the interview, I first of all started by congratulating her. Before even I put my first question to her, that Aparna, congratulations. I have thoroughly enjoyed reading your biodata and more importantly, reading your essay topic. Then I told her that from what I read, what comes across is you are not just one more professor who on getting a job develops complacency and her further development stops. In fact, I see from your record that you have consistently been updating your knowledge, doing research, writing papers which are published in international magazines and all. So I said, I'm very happy. I felt very happy. I enjoyed reading your write-up on the proposed research topic. Okay. She smiled and she said, Sir, that is because I am Chanakya Mandal student. I didn't know, I didn't remember that. She had done our course in Mumbai in 2008. Okay. Point here is that now I am conducting that interview in a very positive sense also, but it is possible that that builds pressure on her. Suddenly, oh my God, none other than Sir himself, the so-called awe. Well, actually, personally, I expect that my presence should actually make people in general, but students in particular, and more so Chanakya Mandal students, they should be happier, not under pressure that, oh my God, sir himself is conducting the interview. But I know that is how human nature exhibits. But what I'm trying to tell you is, what I just shared with you means that this Aparna is indeed excellent in written communication. But when it comes to oral communication, it's possible she may have to work. While remember, she is a professor in a very premier institute in India. It's globally known. So she has to be competent as a professor. Main task of the professor is to speak somehow in the interview. Point for us, the reason I took last 3 minutes is clarity in thinking and clarity in expression. And that is what the essay paper aims to find out. Now, in rest of the papers, you are required to write, say, 150 words, 200, 250, tops 300 words. Okay. So what is the different nature of the essay paper? This is because bureaucrats are indeed required to prepare a lot of write-ups every day, mind you. Every day. You may have to study a situation and prepare a report. Submit that report. It could be submit to government, submit it to your seniors. Or given a certain issue, say water scarcity, in light of monsoon prediction. So if India's monsoon is predicted in, say, January, we need to get ready by what kind of situation we will have this year. Say El Nino now. How will El Nino affect? It is the bureaucrats who prepare the report, submit them to government, then they are considered. So remember, every such report, every letter is an essay. And if an average bureaucrat's career can be divided into 3 equal parts, first 1/3 is where you work in the field, where you are in direct contact with people, where you are handling day-to-day issues at the ground level, at the field level. Okay, there also either various essays are presented to you and then you have to go through, read and pass orders. Or remember that when you are to sit as executive magistrate and various cases come in front of you and you give a hearing and you are supposed to write a judgment. Okay, every such judgment is an essay. So 1/3 part. The middle 1/3 is where you are more in an advisory capacity. The middle level in civil services. You are in the advice. So your job there is to receive various reports and data, statistics from the field. Okay, put them together in a cohesive form and present it for the seniors for decision making, which also means essay writing. And finally, the last 1/3 is where you reach the senior most levels in civil service. And it is basically the task of policy making. But then remember that every such policy issue, and you are to prepare a write-up or suggest a view, develop a perspective, and draft a policy. I hope now your mind already tells you that every such draft is actually an essay. So unlike short notes in rest of the papers, essay demands and tests your ability to think in organized way and then present your thought in an equally organized way. That is the essence of essay. As is true most of the times, our own Bharatiya words are deeper and they reflect a better understanding. Now, our Bharatiya word for essay is Nibandha. Nibandha. Ni stands for special. Bandha is organized. So Nibandha means carefully and specially organized thoughts presented in equally organized way. Nibandha, Ni plus Bandha. Bandha is how you have organized your thoughts. And not simply, not the normal, not the regular one. Nibandha. So you take a theme, there is a seed, there is a germ, and you develop that thought and present it, then it becomes Nibandha. So the defining idea here is testing your ability to pick up one thought, develop that thought, and present it in a cohesive, beautiful, eminently readable, enjoyable way, and still the one that reaches the depth. That is the essence of Nibandha. Hence, you are required to write in the present pattern between 1000 to 1200 words. I suggest to you to ask the mind to think of scoring 150 marks in essay. Please remember, let the mind light up with the thought that come this means I am scoring 150. See yourself writing the essay. See, visualize yourself enjoying the process of writing the essay. Visualize the examiner drawn into your essay, that you have written the essay in such a way that examiner automatically, starting with the first sentence, the first paragraph, the examiner feels drawn, and with the flow of the whole essay as it goes on developing and going deeper and deeper, and the essay keeps reaching higher and higher levels of analysis, of thought, of profundity, including creativity, including your individual creative spark and all, until the essay reaches the crescendo, and then you sum up or close with a paragraph. And visualize that the examiner also is enjoying. And like I said a day before yesterday, the examiner will enjoy, first of all, basically, essentially, if and only if you enjoy the process of writing the essay. So train the brain to think of 150 in essay. Now, you are required to write each essay between 1000 to 1200 words. Okay? Does not mean 150 multiplied by 8. 150 is a short note. And okay, so you are required to write between 1000 to 1200 words. So it is like a 150 word note, only 8. So the essay, which may have small 8 important points, each one in say 150 words. That's not how we think of essay. That's where the beautiful word synergy again comes into picture. That yes, your essay of 1000 to 1200 words may have 8, 10, 15 important points properly developed and presented in each paragraph. But essay is not a short note written 8 times. Or essay doesn't consist of just 8 short notes because it consumes 1000 to 1200 words. It's one cohesive unit, starting with the first paragraph, and then points developing in each paragraph. As they go deeper, the points interconnected. Within each paragraph, the sentences interconnected, like they unfold in a natural way. My most favorite metaphor is, of course, Bharatiya music, Bharatiya classical music also, and further developed into all forms of music. If you ever listen to that music, every next note in that music comes like a natural growth of what is being presented. So like your essay also would be like a musical concert. It's music, it's poetry in the essay that you present. Now also remember that for years on end, I have seen even the paper pattern go on changing. So we can say that there is a certain present existing pattern which has held good for last many years. So given the existing pattern, you have two sections, A and B, each section having 4 subjects. You are required to pick up one from each and write your essay. But there is no guarantee that the same pattern will hold good, mind you. So while we do study PYQs, again, something I said a day before yesterday, mind should be ready that, okay, this seems to be the broad pattern, but we should not be surprised in the negative sense of the term. We should not be taken aback if you find that there is a sudden certain change. I remember the year's essay paper was introduced. Okay. Initially, there used to be 8 subjects, no sections, 8 subjects, and you are required to write only one essay in about 2,500 words. Then as years progressed, I saw the option given go on reducing. So instead of 8, now you had 6, now you had 5, etc. Okay. Then suddenly came a year when you had 2 sections, then A and B. But then also I remember between A and B, there used to be 5 subjects, then reduced to 4. And now I'm telling you something important also, because I must tell you that that's a change I am noticing and interpreting in the main exam last year, 2025 exam. While sections do continue, please note carefully that for all earlier years, there used to be a certain pattern, okay? One section used to be of subjects which are rather sort of philosophical. Or another word I used to use was abstract. Abstract. Okay. When I tell you the second one, maybe this first one becomes more clear. Another section, 4 subjects, they used to be very concrete subjects. They used to be subjects related to, say, problems of India or problems of the world or some critical specific issue. And then it could be related to a certain policy and you are required to write in 1000 or 1200, very pragmatic. So one section of rather abstract or philosophical subjects and the other section of very concrete, very practical, very pragmatic. They would be directly related to problems of, say, India and the world. So let's say questions on environmental issues. Usually there used to be at least one subject relating to women's empowerment, very many ways, but crime against women or law related to women or gender budgeting, so concept in economics, etc., various things. Okay, but I hope you have picked up on my point. In all previous years, we used to see that one section with 4 subjects would have rather abstract or philosophical subjects, and another one would have very practical, pragmatic, concrete problems on the ground. And then it could be like your study of that problem, policy, program, and then your ability to present it in a cohesive way. Then personally, I used to see a certain sense in this design, mind you, because every one of us operate and think in different ways. So if your bent of mind is rather philosophical, it's possible that the section with abstract or philosophical questions, that essay will turn out to be better, deeper, of a higher quality. But as compared to abstract or philosophical subject, if you are that person who rather thinks with feet on the ground, is always rather more pragmatic, more, say, action oriented, if I may say, and the one that comes up with implementable, practicable solutions and all, then it's possible that that other section, which is about more pragmatic issues of the world, problems of India and the world, and proposed solutions, then maybe that essay will be better helping UPSC see how your mind operates. Hoping you have got my point. Not just got, but hoping you have enjoyed this point, you are going to further enjoy that. Because then came years when I saw that now the subjects were mixed. Now you could not really classify that this is a section with 4 topics, all of which are sort of abstract, etc. And then this is a section with 4 topics which are concrete, pragmatic, mixed ones. Okay. You are free to interpret any which way you want. Because this means based on your knowledge of the self. Now it is possible that you could pick up both topics which are philosophical, or both topics which are more pragmatic and concrete. Okay. But that also is a message to UPSC. Is how you make a choice of topics. That itself shows yourself. It reflects the way you think. And why did you choose a particular topic? And if you choose both abstract or both pragmatic, in a way, that is an indication to UPSC. Remember that this will have nothing to do with the way your essays are evaluated. Essays will be evaluated on the basis of quality of your submission. Not whether you picked up one abstract and one practical, one concrete, etc., etc. So, of course, our job, to be stated in words, is pretty simple: to produce our better than the best performance. Don't worry about what topic others will write, how UPSC will evaluate, etc., etc. But reason I took even last about 4 to 5 minutes, okay? Because hold your breath. Those of you who have given the exam last year, I hope they agree with me, okay? That 2025 exam, okay? I find all 8 topics, all 8, to be rather abstract and philosophical. All 8, mind you. You can always interpret a particular topic. That is about the kind of perspective you take. That is also about your ability to interpret a given topic. Think of this topic: truth knows no color. You will agree that it's rather abstract. It's rather more philosophical. You start discussing truth and knows no color. But does it mean you are also going to see different ideologies have a different color? Okay. The, say, present version in India, the one called Hindu nationalism, also known as, say, Hindutva, is supposed to have saffron color. Although what I always like to say is saffron has nothing to do with any particular political ideology. Saffron is the color of sunrise. It's the color of Tej. Therefore, symbolic color of Bharatiya Sanskruti, irrespective of political ideology, etc. Truth has no color. You just heard me interpret in a way. Okay. Communism is supposed to be red. And in American politics, Democrats use blue color and the Republicans use red color. But truth has no color. And go on taking a look at all these subjects. Okay. Every subject lends itself for abstract or philosophical interpretation. But every that subject in last year's paper can still be picked up and given a perspective of something very practical, very hard, very realistic. Okay. This topic, Supreme Art of War, is to subdue the enemy without fighting. I don't know whether you people know that this is actually a quote by Sun Tzu, the Chinese military thinker in ancient times, with his book. Its English translation means Art of War, whatever is the Chinese name. And this sentence is from that book. Whether you know it or not is a different matter. But then you can pick up supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. You can relate it to war strategy. Okay. If you have studied the subject, then it means you can think of Clausewitz, who is a German military strategic thinker. And a classic book written by Clausewitz itself is On War. The very title of the book is On War. Okay. And he talks of war. Okay. He says war is extended diplomacy. So when all other methods fail, then countries, states, nations, kingdoms take to war. Each war, of course, has a definite goal. And the goal is not only about military victory. So think of ongoing US-Israel-Iran war. While actually going by Trump's statements, nobody knows what is the goal of the war. Was regime change the goal of the war? US and Israel started bombing Tehran on February 28. So was regime change the goal? But right now, back to that essay part and back to this supreme art of war is to subdue enemy without fighting. Okay. And the point I'm making is your skill in understanding that topic and how you choose to interpret that topic. So you can interpret it in a philosophical way, but as I was explaining, you can pick up the same topic, turn it into a very concrete basis and develop your essay. So I'm referring to US-Iran Israel war, and I'm juxtaposing Sun Tzu with Clausewitz and then saying each war has a goal. And then I start discussing international relations and pick up the latest example of ongoing US-Israel war. And then say art of war is to subdue enemy without fighting. So one angle could be how you bring overwhelming military power into picture so that the enemy understands that there is no fight in war. Sue for peace, go for compromise, and see how you can negotiate, win something, lose something, rather than go to war and lose everything. Art of war, the supreme art of war, is to subdue enemy without fighting. Okay. This example of Cold War, which some historians and thinkers have argued, okay, that especially President Reagan, beginning 1980, forced Soviet Russia to enter into arms race, including nuclear arms race. But USA, with a more powerful economy, and therefore greater ability to divert resources into military buildup, the military budget. Under President Reagan, USA went on developing arms buildup heavily, okay, forcing Soviet Russia, whose economy was already fragile, and therefore Soviet Russia had severe restrictions in ability to divert resources to defense and security matters. But Reagan forced Soviet Russia to enter into arms race, thus making Soviet economy weaker and more defunct. So did the war actually take place? The point is military war did not. But the supreme art of war is to subdue enemy without fighting. Soviet economy collapsed. Of course, under the burden of the Soviet ideology itself, all failure of socialist economic policies, but also weak Soviet economy, weak agricultural sector, mind you. Soviet Russia, right in the midst of Cold War, was dependent on USA for import of wheat. Remember that Soviet Russia had Ukraine, and still Soviet Russia was dependent on other countries, including USA, for import of wheat. So you can, if you are developing this essay, you can argue this as how under Reagan during Cold War, USA subdued, won the war without actually fighting the war. USA and USSR never actually went to war, not military war, not directly. That's why it was called Cold War. Okay, now get ready for a suddenly completely different interpretation. Supreme art of war is to subdue enemy without fighting. It depends on how you define war. So all the points about day before yesterday. Define the key terms. Okay. How you define art of war. How you define subduing enemy. So who are you going to call as enemy? Remember, in terms of essay, it means developing the proper perspective, clarity of the perspective, defining the basic terms, explaining the meaning of the basic terms. In essay terms, it also means clarifying the scope of our essay. Scope, what am I talking about? When I'm writing this essay, how am I handling this topic? That's called the nature and the scope of the topic of the essay. Scope, okay. For example, get ready for a surprise. I have to sincerely hope you enjoy this, okay? Because I can take this topic, supreme art of war, is to subdue the enemy without fighting, okay? I can call Shad Ripu, as explained in Indian philosophy, as enemies of our own development. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsara. These are called 6 enemies of self-development. And supreme art of war is we are at war with ourselves. And winning that war means subdue the enemy without fighting. So am I fighting myself? Am I fighting Shadripu? Or I am subduing these enemies without even fighting with them? There is an absolutely beautiful story in Mahabharata where Sri Krishna and Balram are traveling across a forest which is supposed to be under the domination of a certain demon, Daitya. And in the night, now they are about to sleep, but that demon appears and says, "You have entered my forest without my permission. Tonight you are going to sleep under this tree, which is a part of my ownership. Okay. So if you want a peaceful sleep, you will have to fight me." Okay. So Balram and Shri Krishna decide to go to sleep in turns, take turns going to sleep. So first Balram will fight this Daitya for 4 hours of the night. And then Balram will ask Sri Krishna to take over. Balram will go to sleep and Sri Krishna will continue to fight. Now this Daitya legendarily had a certain boon from God, okay, that anyone who tries to fight you, in fact, your strength will go on increasing. So your enemy fights you. Because the enemy is fighting with you, your strength will go on increasing. And Balram, with all his strength, goes on fighting. But as the fight rages for like half of the night, that Daitya goes on increasing in size and power, etc. Balram goes on fighting. At the end of Balram's allotted 4 hours, that Daitya has grown big and very powerful, and Balram is all tired and sweating, etc. And then he says, "Krishna, now you take over, I have to go to sleep." So Balram goes to sleep. Balram wakes up after 4 hours This Daitya is reduced to this size, small size, and quietly under the shadow of that tree. And Sri Krishna is sitting there only smiling at the whole thing. And Balram is surprised, man, what did you do? Okay. Sri Krishna says, enemy strength is in fighting that enemy itself. So, reducing that enemy strength is in refusing to even fight the enemy. That you come at me, I'll not fight you. I'll just smile at you. I'll be sitting quietly over there. I'll not fight you. Now because I'm not fighting you, your strength goes on reducing. And you come at me again, and I'm not fighting you, your strength goes on reducing. So much so that by the morning time, the enemy, that Daitya, is reduced to this small size. What a beautiful story. Supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. Okay. And I have also understood and interpreted this story, okay, as fight with Shadripu. Shadripus. You fight them more, their strength increases. You try to subdue Krodha. Actually, Krodha increases. The best way to subdue Krodha as your enemy is to just smile at it. In an alipta, dispassionate bhav, just look at that Krodha and the Krodha will go on. I have to tell you, this is true for Kama and Lobha and Mother, ego, Moha, temptations. You try to fight temptations, they will actually increase. You sort of withdraw and look at all those temptations in a dispassionate way. In fact, the temptations will go on lowering. And finally, so is true for matsara, jealousy. You try to fight jealousy. You feel jealous about some other person's success. You try to fight. Actually, jealousy will go on increasing. If you take a dispassionate attitude, not fight, just be dispassionate. So you just heard me do this to this one topic, interpret this one on one side, at one and the same time. Supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. Interpret it to discuss global politics, actual wars, and military strategies, and international relations and all. But at the same time, pick up that subject, give it a completely different perspective. You can then call it philosophical, abstract, etc. And the examples, I hope you heard me speak an essay, actually, when I explained another perspective, Shad Ripu. So you suddenly define enemy in a different way. Therefore, war in a different way. Therefore, subduing that enemy defined in a different way. And I hope you heard me as I explained. Also share a beautiful story. That's what we are to do in the essays. A beautiful story, a quip, an example. Actually, most of the times, rather than making our point in a panditri way, very like a theoretical way, hypothetical way, explaining long details with all sorts of data, statistics, quotes, all of which is required. But stories do a wonderful job of suddenly bringing a point into focus. And what you could go on talking for hours suddenly becomes very concise, comes into focus. In fact, it becomes beautiful the moment you share a story. That's what we are to do in our essay. Back to the point I'm trying to make is last year I find all 8 topics to be simultaneously abstract or concrete, depending on how you want to interpret this one. Uh, thoughts, thought finds a word and creates one also. Okay. I hope you people have heard of law of attraction. As you think, so will become your world. Therefore, this advice about think positively. Beautiful books like Power of Subconscious Mind, or also another beautiful book with the name Power of Positive Thinking. And it just goes on. So, Thought finds the world. On one side, you're thinking about the world and you try understand the world. But it says creates one also. I could actually pick up quantum physics and refer to latest findings, discoveries in quantum theory. Okay. Now, quantum physics has begun to say what Bharatiya Sanskriti and philosophy has always stated. Quantum physics actually says act of observation creates the observed. So the normal, otherwise understood dichotomy between observer and the observed. So it's not just dichotomy. There are three things here. Our Bharatiya word is triputi. Triputi. I as observer. What I am observing right now, I'm looking at the screen. So there is my tab, the screen, and the windows on the screen showing those of you who are, that is the observed subject. Object. I am the subject. This is the object. Okay. But my act of observing it defines the reality. Okay. In the life as we know and understand, there is this triputi. Drashta, the observer. Drushya, the observed. And darshana, the act of observation. Okay. And in our search for truth, Indian philosophy says these three merge into one. And we understand that there is no three. There is no two also. Whatever there is one. And you are that one. Tattvamasi. So the observer creates the world by observing the world. There is no observed in absence of the observer. And if the observer is not there, what is there to be observed? And where is the question of act of observation? So the only truth is the observer. And you are that observer. I just spoke an essay on this topic. Thought finds the world and creates one also. So please remember that quantum theory also has actually begun to conclude that the world comes into being because we observe it. There is no world outside your observation. You are that world. And in terms of our day-to-day life also, now even psychology has begun to tell us, which again I'm happy to tell you, that Bharatiya Sanskriti has been telling us for thousands of years. Okay? There is this beautiful English sentence, watch out for what you say. Watch out what you say. Watch out what you wish, for it may come true. If you consistently think negatively, the negativity will translate into reality. But if you think positive, yes, the probability that that positive will turn into reality increases. Because for want of time, I need to tell you and move on to my next points is a beautiful half a line from Bhagavad Gita, the 17th Adhyay. Yo yat shraddha sa eva saha. जो जशी श्रद्धा ठेवतो तो तसा होतो. If you keep saying, I am not intelligent, I am bowlet, you will become bowlet. Yo yat shraddha. But if you, something Vivekananda kept telling, that you are strong, believe and say you are strong, that will make you strong. The source of that strength is inside you, but you need to find that strength and build on that. And this is how I'm restricting myself, but all 8 topics, mind you, all 8. How I wish I could conduct another session just discussing the last year's essay paper, taking 8 topics one by one and telling you how each one can be interpreted in many ways. For us, it is to define, explain the nature, also define the scope. And please remember, in the same essay, you can actually interpret the same topic in different perspectives. That will in fact make your essay more beautiful. You don't have to restrict your essay to only one perspective. In fact, if you interpret the same subject in abstract and philosophical way, and then connect it with practical realities. I hope you heard me do it for 4 topics. I did 4 topics, and this could just go on, mind you. Make it a point to present all these different perspectives in your essay, more you understand. But then remember that then these perspectives need to be presented in interconnected way. So when you write your essay, you are going to start with what perspective? Define, nature, scope, meaning, and to be presented in such a way that your presentation of that perspective automatically throws up the next perspective and the next. Or you can also say that, okay, here is one absolutely philosophical way of looking at this topic. And then go on to say that along with that philosophical, we can also understand the same topic in this very abstract, very concrete way. Okay. Muddy water, this is second section. Muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone. See how you can interpret it. Muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone. You need to define and explain the meaning. What do you mean by muddy water? Okay. So muddy water can be interpreted to mean something has gone wrong between two people. Their relationship has gone wrong. Something has gone wrong within you. You are trying to solve a problem, but it got mixed up and the whole water has become muddy. I need to clear that up. Okay. You can also relate it to international relations. And then this principle, muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone. You try to stir it. More you stir it, more it is going to remain muddy. So the best way to handle is just leave it. And eventually the mud will automatically settle down, leaving clear water, and then you can handle the problem. Actually, when I read this subject, and one absolutely beautiful song of old Hindi music came to my mind. I don't know whether you people have heard it. The music composer is Ravi, a music composer of ancient time. This was a black and white movie, Hamrahi, in which the lead role is played by Ashok Kumar. And it's a beautiful, very intelligent court case. I will have to save time. There is a beautiful song by Mahendra Kapoor. Mukhda. Mukhda is चलो एक बार फिर से अजनबी बन जाए हम दोनों. तो हम दोनों फ्रेंड्स, मित्र मैत्रीण, प्रियकर प्रेयसी, पति पत्नी, something went wrong in their relationship. And they try to either rebuild the relationship or, okay, forget whatever has happened. And for each one to start their own life. So the beautiful poetry made even more beautiful by music and Mahendra Kapoor's song, Chalo ek baar fir se ajnabi ban jaye hum dono. When we didn't know each other that time, sometime, when we didn't know each other, Chalo ek baar fir se ajnabi ban jaye hum dono. There is another ghazal, mind you, beautiful ghazal, sung by Jagjit Singh and Chitra Singh, his wife. And the first line says, उस मोड़ से शुरू करे फिर ये जिंदगी, हम तुम थे अजनबी, हर शय I'm forgetting one line and therefore some proper poetic meter. But the line says, उस मोड़ से शुरू करें फिर ये जिंदगी, हम तुम जब थे अजनबी, हर शय थी जवां. Some mix up within one word. Water is muddy. And we are trying to understand that life. And उस मोड़ से शुरू करें फिर ये जिंदगी, हम तुम, चलो लेट्स मेक अ न्यू बिगिनिंग. हम तुम थे अजनबी और हर शय थी हंसी. हंसी is the word. Beautiful. Hasi is the word. Muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone. This song I am reminding you, चलो एक बार फिर से अजनबी बन जाए हम दोनों. There is a beautiful line in a stanza, that time of Hindi music when poetry used to be beautiful, very meaningful. The line is, वो अफसाना जिसे अंजाम तक लाना ना हो मुमकिन, उसे एक खूबसूरत मोड़ देकर भूलना अच्छा. वो अफसाना, that story, जिसे अंजाम तक, and to some conclusion, proper closure, जिसे अंजाम तक लाना ना हो मुमकिन, not possible. Now the whole thing has become so complex, it's just not possible. Okay, वो अफसाना जिसे अंजाम तक लाना ना हो मुमकिन, उसे एक खूबसूरत मोड़ देकर, give it a beautiful spin, a turn, भूलना अच्छा. Forget. Muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone. I hope you heard me interpret this topic in one abstract, philosophical, going deep, but at the same time, the same topic can be interpreted to relate to international relations, wars, etc. This can just go on. I'll force myself to just pick up one example. I noted over here. I don't know whether I'll pick up a rest of them. We are, as usual, short on time. But I hope you find the process creative and eminently enjoyable. Years teach much, which the days never know. Think about it. All of us live our life every day. I know most of the times we find most of the days to be rather tough and troublesome, and thinking the whole process of living is an uphill task. Okay. But then life passes like this, in a blink of an eye. In a blink. And then you suddenly look back and say, oh my God, so many years have passed. And when I was living my life every day, I found it tough. तोंडाला फेस येणे, छाती फुटेपर्यंत पळणे, सगळ्यांचं आयुष्य आहे असंच आहे. Every day. But we struggle, we live, and then years pass in a blink only for us to know that time has passed. Allow me to share this example, which I hope you find beautiful. This year on April 1, 2, and 3, there was a reunion of my IAS batch at Mussoorie Academy. Our entire, and this was only IAS batch. Meeting for 3 days in Lal Bahadur Shastri National Academy of Administration, where I am looking forward to all of you reaching by late August or early September. Beautiful place. And remember, my IAS batch is 1986, so it means 40 years. 40 years. Okay. All my batch is by now retired. Not one batchmate is now serving. And it's been 40 years ago that we were at Mussoorie, young IAS officers meeting each other, developing friendship, but maybe also developing enmity, full of oneself, full of ego. I am IAS, I am all India rank, blah, blah, blah. So then manning various posts, etc., etc. Okay. But on April 1, 2, and 3, 2026, everyone remembered 1986 like yesterday. And everyone felt 40 years passed like this. Like this. Years teach much, which the days never know. When we live our day-to-day life, we think it is all full of trouble, problem, pain, etc. Because everyone from Buddha to Tukaram tells us that's what life is. But then it passes in a blink. And then you suddenly, oh my God, so many years have passed. So many years have passed. We have seen a certain kid, and then that boy or girl grows to develop into beautiful, handsome, confident, cheerful young person. You look at that boy and you suddenly say, how years have passed like this? I remember you like this. You were a kid. I had picked you. Okay. But now see how your years pass like this. Sometimes we think of doing something tomorrow and okay, I'll do it tomorrow. I have some things to do today. That tomorrow never comes. And then you realize that 5, 10, 15, 20 years have passed. Years teach us something that days don't. And you can just go on interpreting. I thought one another perspective of interpreting this, okay, is another English beautiful term called missing a tree for the forest or missing the forest for the tree. Where in this metaphor, each day will be a tree and years will be the forest. And either missing a tree for the forest, you are so focused on each day that you don't know the broader trend and what years are giving you. Or missing the forest, years teach many years suddenly together. They teach what days don't know. Or one beautiful bhajan of Kabir is also my personal beautiful bhajan. The line is Par utar gaye, beet gaye din bhajan bina. That is the start of the bhajan. Beet gaye din bhajan bina. Days past, I am living. I remember God. I want to name, worship, and perform music or my life to God. But day-to-day life, I forgot bhajan. Beet gaye din bhajan bina. And a beautiful stanza says, Bala avastha khel gavayo. Childhood, I spent in just playing. Jab javani tab man ghanayo. I became youth, full of all strength, vigor, also probably ego, etc. And the life passed. Now in old age, budhapa jab aaya, now I am feeling sorry how I have wasted my life. Years teach us what days don't. Another of my favorite song is again from another old Hindi movie. The song is sung by Mukesh. The Mukhda is सजन रे झूठ मत बोलो खुदा के पास जाना है न हाथी है न घोड़ा है वहां पैदल ही जाना है. Okay, and then the stanza says लड़कपन खेल में खोया जवानी नींद भर सोया. Soya can be interpreted in many unspeakable ways also. बुढ़ापा देख कर रोया. Now the body is not functioning. Now that old vigor is not there. Muscles are weakened. Okay. लड़कपन खेल में खोया जवानी नींद भर सोया बुढ़ापा देख कर रोया यही किस्सा पुराना है. Almost everyone lives life like this. यही किस्सा पुराना है. So it is like wake up. Years teach much which the days never know. See how I interpret it. And one last thing. I hope you people remember the terms microeconomics and macroeconomics. If you remember, you will suddenly pick up my point that whenever we study economics from micro perspective, we are studying a tree. But when we begin to take a wider perspective, then we are studying the forest. And they are mutually complementary. Many a times, many economics don't understand that micro and macro are interrelated, relative also. And as you go on changing the level of study of economics, the relative meaning of micro and macro also may keep changing. So the way you keep interpreting, I could go to the last topic also, but today I've already taken a lot of time. I know that I'm still going to cover all the points before 1:30. It is best to see life as a journey, not as a destination. What a beautiful subject. And again, many ways in which you can interpret. Journey is the destination. Okay? कहीं जाना नहीं है. It is here and now. Sarvatha vartamanopi, being in the present. If we think some destination and I'm striving and struggling to reach that destination, okay, then our understanding of life is limited. The moment we begin to understand that destination will either come all by itself, we don't have to worry, we don't have to entangle ourselves into it, but engage in the journey properly. Also enjoy that journey, then journey becomes the destination. So I just spoke Karma Yoga with you. Karma phala, as we expect, is the destination. And karma that we do is the journey. I am studying and preparing for UPSC in general and mains in particular. Okay, so maybe I think clearing mains is my destination right now. Short-term destination. Clearing mains. But if I entangle myself into that destination and karma phala, okay, I got 875 plus and I got an invitation for interview. Will my focus on my preparation of the mains, will it get diluted? Will the focus move? Will it be unfocused? Or if I focus on the excellence of my karma, I am preparing for mains, I am going to enjoy the process, the journey of preparing for mains. The destination will come all by itself. I don't have to worry. There is a beautiful ghazal again in old Hindi film music. This ghazal was sung by Talat Mahmood. The mukhda is अंधे जहां के अंधे रास्ते जाए तो जाए कहां. What a deeply philosophical perception of life. अंधे जहां के अंधे रास्ते जाए तो जाए कहां. ओके, उसमें एक पंक्ति है उस गजल में which reads, ए गम के मारो मंजिल वही है दम ये टूटे जहां जाए तो जाए कहां. कि ए गम के मारो, गम, all of us are गम के मारो, burdened with grief, गम के मारो. मंजिल वही है, मंजिल डेस्टिनेशन कहां पहुंचना है, तो मंजिल वही है दम ये टूटे जहां. दम टूटे इज डेथ. डेथ कि दैट इज द मंजिल. ए गम के मारो मंजिल वही है दम ये टूटे जहां. It's a negative interpretation of life, but journey is important, not destination. Another of my favorite song is from movie Guide, sung by S.D. Burman himself. And what a beautiful poetry. Mukhda is, वहां कौन है तेरा मुसाफिर जाएगा कहां. दम ले ले घड़ी भर ये छैया पाएगा. One of our friend had posted the whole song on the screen. It appeared momentarily and then it went off. Read it originally. Beautiful poetry. But similarly, वहां कौन है तेरा मुसाफिर जाएगा कहां, कि कहीं पहुंचना है, द डेस्टिनेशन. ते काय घेऊन बसलास, वहां कौन है तेरा. एक तो मुसाफिर है. जर्नी इज योर डेस्टिनेशन. तो जाएगा कहां, कहां जाने की बात कर रहा है. वहां कौन है तेरा, वो सब. And then the whole poetry that is follows. So it is best to see life as journey, not as destination. And I related to human life, facing our grief, our struggles, including our preparation of UPSC. And rather than thinking of destination, I will rather think of the journey and focus on the excellence of my karma, enjoy the journey, destination apne aap aa hi jayega. There's a beautiful Japanese haiku, mind you. Haiku is 3-line poetry. Haikus are supposed to be essentially about nature, 3 lines of 8 alphabets each, but it suddenly brings up a completely different meaning. Okay? So one haiku says, sitting quietly, doing nothing, and grass grows all by itself. Is the line. Look at that. Sitting quietly, doing nothing, and grass grows all by. This is the English translation of the Japanese haiku. So the meter and 8 lines may not fit, but the spirit of the haiku, sitting quietly, doing nothing, and grass grows all by itself. Actually, this is the definition of meditation, dhyana, and the haiku is about Zen form of meditation. Sit quietly, doing nothing, things will happen. It is meditation, and grass grows all by itself. Nature has its own way of taking a shape. You don't worry, you don't try to force, things will take their own shape. Journey rather than destination. That brings me to the last topic, and then I'm going to tell you like hundreds of tips I've already passed on, but I'll then, for remaining part of my talk, I'll go on mentioning them. Last year's said topic was contentment is natural wealth. Luxury is artificial poverty. Again, depends on how you interpret. Tukobarai says, Thevile anante taisechi rahave. Or another beautiful Marathi proverb says, Santosh हेच सर्वश्रेष्ठ धन आहे. Contentment itself is the greatest wealth. Otherwise, human beings are after, I got this, now I will want this. And we are never contented. One wish is fulfilled, it gives rise to 10 more wishes. And we are never contented. And therefore, this discontent, being uncontented, therefore unstable, asamadhani, we never feel sukhi, bliss, happiness. I got something, I'm not happy with what I got. I want something more. I want something more. I want something more. One beautiful line from Upanishad, okay, says, Na jatu kama kamanam upabhogena samyate havisha krishna vartmeva bhuya eva abhivardhate. So what a deep and profound understanding of life. Na jatu kama kamanam, various desires, of course, including sex. Indian philosophy does not demean sex. But na jatu kama kamanam upabhogena samyate. All my desires, मैंने उनका उपभोग लिया. अलग अलग जो इच्छाएं हैं, उपभोग लिया, उनसे वो खत्म नहीं होती है. साम्यते, शमत नहीं. कंटेनमेंट, न जातु काम कामानाम उपभोगे न साम्यते. और ज्यादा जितना मैं उपभोग लेता रहूंगा, उपभोग की इच्छा और बढ़ती रहेगी. One demand is fulfilled, one wish is fulfilled, it creates 10 more. And then instead of me being happy with one demand fulfilled, my mind goes to next 10. Even out of those 10, 9 are fulfilled. I am still suffering from discontent because that one is not fulfilled. Contentment. Because na jatu kama kamanam upabhoge na samyate. Then a beautiful metaphor by this Rishi. Havisha Krishna Vartmeva Bhuya Eva Bhivardhate. that is मशाल या कोई कपड़ा जलाया गया, इमेजिन कर लो, उसको जितना नीचा दबाओगे उतना अग्नि और बढ़ता जाएगा. That is the meaning of the second line. Avisha Krishna Vartmeva Bhuya Evabhivartate. So instead of that, even as we engage ourselves in our effort, in hopefully the karma yoga way, that focusing on karma, excellence, enjoying it, and the karma phala will take care of itself. I will not be entangled, lipta hone, into it, will draw us to contentment. Or contentment is natural wealth, because that is wealth. What more wealth are you going to ask for? That is the natural wealth. Okay. Luxury is artificial poverty, because you are full of all material luxury and you are still not feeling happy. The adhyay is Daivasura Sampad Vibhaga Yogo Nama. In first three shlokas, Sri Krishna describes divine qualities in us. I'll spare time over there. And then for remaining part of the adhyay, there is a shlok after shloka describing asuri, devilish, negative sampatti. One shloka says, Idamadya maya labdham, imam prapse manoratham. Okay? Idamadya maya labdham, I got this. Idam prapse manoratham, my manoratha, my thinking, my wish, this is fulfilled. Okay? Idamadya maya labdham, imam prapse manoratham. Idam asti idamapi me bhavishyati punardhanam. That I got this, my wish is fulfilled. Now 10 of my more wishes. I want more. I want more. I want to grab more. I want to exploit nature. I want to become richer. More GDP, greater per capita income, greater destruction of wealth, the main wealth being global commons and the nature and environment. See how many perspectives I presented. Contentment is natural wealth. If only we train ourselves to remain contented. It's not about not being active. It's not tamoguna. It is sattva-guna. Be engaged in action, but from a happy state of mind, contentment. And otherwise, luxury is artificial poverty. What use is all that money, blah, 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 etc. I'm also reminded of a beautiful story of Guru Nanak Dev. He was traveling. He reached one village where the richest person in that home touched the feet of Guru Nanak Dev and said, please come to my home. I have a big mansion, palatial home. I will have a spare room for you with all luxuries. My people will attend to you. Please come to my home. There was another poorest of a poor person in the village. And he said, Gurudev, aapke pav mere ghar lag jaye. Wah, Guru Nanak Dev chose to go to that poor person's home. So the rich person, with his devotion to Nanak Dev, felt sad. And he said, Gurudev, why didn't you come to my place? So as the story goes, Guru Nanak Dev asked both of them to bring one bread, bhakri, wheat bread, not the Western version, our Bharatiya version, Punjabi version, say tandoor roti. So Guru Nanak Dev asked this poor person and the rich person also bring one tandoor roti from your home each. And then in front of, when the whole village was gathered there, Guru Nanak Dev just spun the roti ghumai hai. This roti from poor person's home, milk drops dropped. And the roti from the rich person's home, blood drops fell down. And Guru Nanak Dev said, this man may be outwardly poor, but whatever wealth he has is from his hard work, from his own sweat. And you may be rich with a palace and mansion, but your wealth is from exploitation of people. Therefore, it oozes blood. The story is to be understood as symbol. So on one side, contentment is natural wealth. luxury is artificial poverty. But at the same time, you remember, and as I was taking a look at this, even my mind remembered, Pula Deshpande, with his outstanding one act, one man per stand-up comedy actually. बाप अख्ख्या दुनियेतल्या सर्व स्टँडअप कॉमेडीचा बाप म्हणजे आपले पुलं. Either watch his stand-up comedy with the title Bigarite Metric. It is there on YouTube. Or his Vaganatya called Varyavarchi Vara. The reference I'm giving is from Bigarite Metric. And Pula, in the funniest and at the same time deeply meaningful way, is explaining his educational experience during the school years. Okay? So he's referring to some bad teachers. Since he's saying, and remember it's an essay, again, Bigarite Metric is an essay written in a funny style, but the fun that suddenly goes deep into philosophical meanings. So Pula starts this essay by saying, हल्ली ते KGBG काहीतरी असतं म्हणे. मला माहिती नव्हतं की बालवाडीत प्रवेश वजनावर मिळतो. या वाक्याने त्यांची बिगरिते मॅट्रिकची सुरुवात आहे. Okay. Then the teachers who are not really into the subject, they themselves don't enjoy the subject, they don't enjoy being teachers. So maybe at the end of the day, unfortunately, they don't love the students and all. So they teach in a very dry, uncreative, unimaginative way that students would never develop love for a certain subject. While making this point, he's saying there was this beautiful poetry. Okay, Bal Kavi is called the poet of nature, Nisarga Kavi, Nisarga Kavi. And beautiful poetry by Bal Kavi, where he describes Audumbar, a beautiful vruksha, Audumbar by the side of a river flow, is described. But Pula used to say, okay, मास्तरचा आवाज असा करडा असायचा, मास्तर कविता शिकवताना, शेते पिकुनी पिवळी झाली. काय झालं? पिवळी झाली. काय झालं? शेत. शेते पिकुनी पिवळी झाली. All poetry is lost. All rhythm is lost. All beauty where Balkavi describes शेते पिकुनी पिवळी झाली. Those of you who are good at Marathi may also remember like सूर्यफुलाचं शेत. वेस्टर्न काही तुम्हाला माहिती असेल तर ट्युलिप्स, एम्स्टरडॅम, नेदरलंडमध्ये जे ट्युलिप आणि चांगले सिनेमे पाहायची सवय असेल तर सिलसिला नावाचा चित्रपट, ते ज्याच्यातला अप्रतिम शिवहरी यांनी संगीत दिलेलं म्हणजे हरिप्रसाद चौरासिया आणि पंडित शिवकुमार शर्मा. देखा एक ख्वाब तो ये सिलसिले हुए, a beautiful song. The whole background of that song is a field of tulips. पिवळी फुलं सगळी, पिवळी फुलं. Subject of many poems of even William Wordsworth in English and our own Balkavi. But the teacher who loses all that poetry, beauty, etc. is teaching in the driest of a possible way. शेते पिकुनी पिवळी झाली. In that same Bigarite metric, Pula says, listen very carefully, because that is what is going to hit the nail regarding this last subject. लहानपणी आमच्यात धट्टी कट्टी गरिबी आणि लुळी पांगळी श्रीमंती एवढं ठासून भरण्यात आलं की गरिबीच लुळी पांगळी असते हे कळेपर्यंत आमचे आयुष्यच लुळी पांगळी होऊन गेली होती. Those of you with Marathi mother tongue may understand the sudden depth he is saying. So the point I'm just telling you is almost completely contradictory to the perceived initial meaning of the given topic. Contentment is natural wealth, luxury is artificial poverty, as if dhatti katti garibi. Garib, poor and poverty is healthy. And luli pangli shrimanti, you are materially wealthy But what use is that wealth if you're not in a position to enjoy that? That's Srimanti, Luli Pangli. Pula says, whatever is our culture, civilization, and cultural norms, we are taught so much. Datti Katti Garibi, the strong and healthy poverty, and weakling Srimanti, richness. की गरिबीच दुबळी असते. इट इज पॉवर्टी दॅट कीप्स अस वीक अँड अनहेल्दी. हे समजेपर्यंत आमची आयुष्यच लोळी पांगळीतून गेली होती. बाय द टाइम वी रिअलाइज दॅट नो वी हॅव टू कॉन्कर पॉवर्टी अँड अटेन अ गुड स्टँडर्ड ऑफ लिव्हिंग. By that time, our own lives had already become weak. So mind you, completely contradictory to what I have otherwise been interpreting this. Now I am giving you a completely different perspective and in another interpretation. There is a beautiful Marathi song again. पोटा पुरता कसा पाहिजे नको पिकाया पोळी, देणाराचे हात हजारो दुबळी माझी जोळी. What are we demanding? The same that Kabir is saying. Sai itna dijiye, jame kutuma samay, is said in beautiful Marathi poetry. Pota purta pasa pahiye. Pasa is dhanadhanya, food. Enough for jame kutuma samay. पोटा पुरता कसा पाहिजे नको पिकाया पोळी, की काहीतरी फार मला लक्झरी वेल्थ हवी असं नको. देणाराचे हात हजारो, तो देणारा इज रेफरन्स टू गॉड. अनंत हस्ते कमलावराने, देता किती घेशील दो कराने. तर देणाराचे हात हजारो, दुबळी माझी झोळी, की आय एम द वन हु इज रिसिव्हिंग. Or there are some people who have criticized Indian approach, Indian philosophy, as it is also expressed in our saint poets. One of the best expression is Tukaram saying, "Evile anante taisechi rahave." Whichever way God has kept us, let us be happy, contented in that. Okay. There are people who have criticized this philosophy, this approach, saying that is the reason India remains poor and backward, because we don't work hard. We don't aim at achieving good standard of living. Thevile anante taisechi rahave. This is a modern criticism by many Indian thinkers, and also this is what Itihasacharya Rajwade criticized against even saint poets, his own whatever criticism. And then there are those who study saint poetry. I would politely express myself as a student among that. They say, Thevile anante taisechi rahave does not mean we don't work. We do work. We have to work for even betterment and welfare of our life, but not from the discontented set of mind, position of mind, but from the contented position of mind. Thevile anante taisechi rahave is not a philosophy for inaction. Naishkarmya, it is a philosophy for detached action. So my dear friends, in whatever time we gave today, my mind says issues, etc. may not be clear. But if you have heard my initial talk, which you would have picked up lots of points. What I'm going to do in remaining time now is I've jotted some points here, which are practical tips. So in remaining time, I will pass on these tips to you, hoping in a way they also summarize everything we have been discussing for larger part of last 1 hour and 3/4. Okay. So now, while we study the question papers and think that there could be 2 sections, each one with 4 topics, the mind should be ready for any last minute change in the sudden paper. Given the current situation, we are required to write 1000 to 1200 words. Okay. So read the question paper carefully and in a cool way, decide which are the topics on which you are going to write the essay. The only criteria for choice of subject is your judgment about your best essay. That's the only criteria. Everything else is not only secondary, everything else is in fact false. Okay. Sometimes I've heard either youngsters or some self-styled guides for UPSC, MPSC say that try to pick up a topic which most of UPS aspirants are not likely to pick up. So they have this idiotic concept of that topic being written by less number of students, therefore less competition. That's what they think. And because you have picked up a topic which most of others have not, the examiner will think better about you and will give you more score. Okay, all utterly foolish and absolutely wrong criteria. UPSC examiner is not going to evaluate your essay on the basis of how many others have written on that topic. Is it a rare topic? Okay. The only criteria for evaluation is the quality of your essay. That's it. So when it comes to the choice of the topics, pick up what you think will be your best essays. 2 topics, one from each section. That is where our knowledge of the self comes into picture. We should know what we are good at. And given those 8 topics, 4 in each, our judgment about which one will be my best topic. Or you think the paper is very difficult, then within those difficulty level, where will you write your best one? Pick up those topics. The topics on which you think you are better prepared, you are thinking of lot of quick ideas, etc. And yes, I know, I feel happy, I feel excited after looking at that topic, and then I can develop that topic very well. Then there is a question of time management for essay paper. Okay. By the way, one practical tip is after you make your choice, prepare your notes. I'm going to come to that point. Okay. The principle I told you day before yesterday, put your best foot forward. Holds good for essay also. Huh? So the first essay you write, while you have to pick up 2 of the best of the topics, still within the 2, each of us know which one will be my better essay. Okay. Write that as the first essay. Then the second one. That brings me to time management issue. So 3 hours, essay between 1000 to 1200. Even if we presume the higher limit, so the point about not crossing word limit remains. So see to it that your essay remains below 1200. Huh? So it means in a space of 3 hours, you are required to write 2400 words at rate of 25 words per minute. You will see that time is not a problem at all. Okay, time is not a problem at all. You will see that the act of writing essay, if it is 1000 word essay, is 40 minutes. 40 minutes at rate of 25 words per minute, 40. Or 1200 words will mean it adds another 8 minutes. On the higher side, the act of writing is 48 minutes. And an average time as a thumb rule for each essay is 1.5 hours. You have to write 2 essays, so 1.5, which means let the brain relax. That sort of you have ample time on hand. Also ample time to prepare for that essay. So how are you going to read? Tick mark which topics you are going to write and start jotting down various points about that essay. Okay. So prepare your notes over there. Then in those notes, as the points keep coming to your mind, you will see that sometimes when you're thinking about this one essay, some points about that other essay also come up. Make it a point to jot them there. And while writing them, your mind will go back to the first one and it will remind you, yes, in this essay, I want to make these points. But then prepare your notes. I will draw your attention to my previous recorded session you must have received, in which I have spoken about a concept called thought structure. I'll take your mind back to that. So sit down quietly, take a look at the essay topic, maybe write that at the top of the rough paper and then say, what are the points you want to make in this essay? Given all this, ask yourself, what is the theme of my essay? What is the main theme? In developing my essay on this given topic, what is going to be the core of my argument? And then write that at the very center of the page. Maybe draw a circle around that point. And then once you are clear about the theme and the central and the focal point of the essay, which other points do you want to present in order to make these points? And then depending on their relationship with that central point, go on writing those points on different parts of the page. Sometimes draw a triangle around that point, sometimes a square, sometimes a rhombo, sometimes a parallelogram, whatnot. And then arrows defining the relationship of that point with your central focal point. I hope as I talk, you begin to see the thought structure in front of your eyes. Then in the act of preparing our notes, of course, we have to think of how we are going to start the essay, then go on developing that essay, and how we are going to close the essay. So all the points in my recorded talk or everything I said day before yesterday holds good for essay. And then some points assume a greater importance. So I've always explained essay in three basic themes in that order of priority. The first and most important factor in an outstanding quality essay is content. Content. Ashay. In simple English, it means what to write, clarity about what to write. That is the essence, the central and the beautiful aspect of essay. So clarity about what to write, content. To that end, I have suggested the thought structure pattern and then this act of making notes, etc., jotting down the points, developing clarity about what will be the sequence of my points, etc., and also defining the terms, explaining the meaning, also being clear about the scope. What is the scope of my essay? Given a topic, am I interpreting that for India? Or is it about the whole world? Scope of the and various perspectives, various different interpretations. Then the Aadhaar, the Pushti, the substantiation of different types, data, statistics, quotes, authorities, referring to some sources, and also enriching our essay with maps, tables, comparative studies, or figures, etc., etc. Okay, this is all about how we enrich our essay. All of them hold good. But this is thought structure. So the content part. Second component of excellent essay is expression. That once you develop clarity about what do you want to say, expression, abhivyakti as usual, a deeper, a more meaningful Bharatiya word, abhivyakti. Abhi means special. Abhyakti is expression. Vyakta hone. So abhivyakti. Now I'm expressing. So being clear about content and then the skill in presentation. Yes, now I'm clear. This is what I want to say. How am I going to say it? That is expression. What to say is content. How to say is expression. Expression, abhivyakti. That is where a good start. I'm going to come to that point. Even if my session exceeds a little bit today, I hope so be it. And I hope you people are really enjoying that. It doesn't mean I'm going to delay it too much, but let us complete the essay part today. So a good start, then developing our essay in proper paragraphs with, of course, the proper titles and subtitles wherever required, including possibly numbering of the paragraphs. All are these things which will lend an excellent quality of clarity to your essay. And then define meaning, scope, etc. Substantiate. Okay. And then it is about enriching your essay. So, while for other papers, we are to have one opening line. For the essay, we are to have an opening paragraph. How do we open our essay? That is going to define the quality of your essay, the creativity behind your essay, and on a lesser important side, that is also going to see whether examiner finds oneself drawn into your essay. A good opening will be a critical skill for writing a good essay. This is actually true for a good speech, a good story, a good drama, a good movie, any good piece you read in newspapers, a good poetry, how you start. Okay. How is it catchy? How is it arresting? How it suddenly draws attention. And still in that very first paragraph, the subject opens and the depth and the vastness and the scope of the subject also becomes very clear in that opening line. That is an excellent skill to develop, mind you. I have some suggestions to make over there. Okay. Sometimes you may write, say, 2, 3, 4 lines of a poem. Okay. Given the subject, suddenly that poem, you open with that poem, you write those 2, 3 lines, and suddenly it makes the whole point clear about what you are saying. So it could be a poem, which means poem in any form. There could be doha, there could be a share, 2 lines share, etc. And the poem could be in, say, English, Hindi. We are under no compulsion not to quote Marathi or any other language poem. But there, for the purposes of our essay, we will also have to write the English term. But a good start could be, say, a poem, okay, or a joke, mind you. Joke is always the best way to express yourself. Rather than saying something in a very serious way, in a very dry and a gadya, prose way, you suddenly crack a joke and it suddenly brings out an excellent meaning out of it. Okay? In bureaucracy, you are always promoted to the best level of inefficiency. Suddenly that last word hits you. In a way, it is a joke, but it also suddenly brings out the whole bureaucratic structure. So you quote this Peter principle. And it suddenly, or you are to write an essay on, say, development of information technology, how it has impacted humanity, and how now it is going to AI, etc. There is a law called Moore's law. Moore's law says that computational ability doubles, but the cost halves every 18 months. That is Moore's law. If you open your essay on, say, IT, AI, etc., with one such quote, some such quote, and quotations also are wonderful depending on the nature of the subject. So a joke, a quotation, a poetry, mind you. Story, again, is always the best way, that you narrate a story rather than making your point in a pedantic way. You just open the topic by narrating a story. Everyone likes to hear stories. It's not like only kids like to hear the stories. All of us like to hear the stories. Age-wise, whatever we grow, we like to hear the stories. And points to be made come across better in a story form rather than we go on making them in a pedantic way. We just narrate one story. I have hundreds of stories, but there are points to be made. In fact, my mind is saying otherwise we will not. We will continue day after tomorrow on GS4, where my main focus will be on case study. And all these points I'm saying now, and if at the end of the day my mind now says uh, I can't exceed too much, but still some points are remaining, I'll continue day after tomorrow. Point here is good opening. Good opening. So it could be with a story. And you open and then develop the essay. And as the essay develops, keeps developing, keeps going deeper and deeper, you make a point, you share a story, you substantiate it, and then move on. So your essay should develop. How I can go on talking about very many essays or articles or many serials also. If you see a good movie, a good drama, or if you read a good novel, a good story, okay, one feature you will see is it moves on. It keeps developing. Characters keep developing. Story moves on. It's not like it moves in the same circle. That happens with many, if not most of the serials that are available on current on this thing. Story doesn't move. If you miss some episodes and catch up later on, you don't feel like the story has moved on. You don't feel like something has happened and you have missed a storyline. What worth is that? But a good essay should keep moving. It keeps developing. What I have many a times, sometimes seen is some brilliant point is made in the earlier part of the essay, okay, but the essay remains there. It doesn't develop further. The essay has to move on. It has to develop. It has to actually keep going deeper. Or you presented one perspective, you defined, explained, then go to the another perspective, then another one, and then draw your conclusions final as it reaches the concluding part of the essay. What you want, what do you want to say? So the essay has to keep moving and not move in round and round in circles. The essay has to develop, which means keep going deeper. So a good opening will be a defining factor. My suggestion is after that opening paragraph, you open the essay. Okay. After that, my suggestion is a paragraph which, for want of other words, I call it outline paragraph. It's not like give the same name. But once you open your essay, lay down the ground of the essay, lay down the topic, okay? Then have a paragraph which briefly states what this essay is all about. Which briefly states what this essay is going to argue or explore. And having explored very many angles, what is going to be the conclusion of this essay? A small paragraph, 4 to 5 lines. I call it outline paragraph. I remind you, please don't keep repeating the words outline or the same cliched words. This essay is going to argue about so and so. With all due respect, let me please point out that I know that some of the coaching places somewhere, including Delhi, where there is insistence on learning by rote, ratta marne, youngsters are sort of told, popat panchi, parroting, and like this paragraph, and he should say, in this essay, we are going to deal with. Okay. So everyone comes up and start writing in this essay, we are going to. UPSC immediately understands. I'm sharing this with you because it is now within the limits of morality that my batchmates who served on UPSC, after they completed their tenure, in our personal interaction also have told this to me regarding mains or even the interview part. This, my dear friends, is also as back for us. This is not new. The way I am telling you is something Chanakya Mandal is always guiding the students. But this was Aniket Mandavgane, Indian Foreign Service 2009, who during his probation period at Mussoorie, okay, so this was September, October of Mussoorie, 2009, as back as 2009. The then chairman UPSC addressed his batch at Mussoorie. In that talk also, he said, we weed out those who write their answers or give their answers in interview in the Popat Panchi style, learning by rote. He had explained to their batch saying that the moment we see some standard wordings and paragraphs either in main exam or in interview, all of us know that he has taken coaching from some this standard place. Our attempt is to weed out. He said, we are looking for originality. We are looking for creativity. We want to see how this youngster has understood the subject. If you start repeating, if you go on writing the same cliched words, which every UPSC aspirant comes up and goes on writing, then it's a message to UPSC that it's not like you have applied your independent mind and developed your essay or all answers. So it says our attempt is to weed out. So as to even the opening paragraph, how you open, I gave you many options. And then yes, an outline paragraph is required because that lends a quality of clarity to your essay. So do have it, but see to it that you don't go on using the same words. Okay, you can pick up meaningful 2 or 3 words as the title for that paragraph, but they make it clear how you are presenting the theme of your essay. Remember, it is not same as conclusion, mind you. Like opening paragraph, I'm sure you know that I'm going to tell you about closing paragraph also. Okay. And then the way your essay develops keeps going better and better, going deeper and deeper. So keeps reaching higher level as it reaches the climax of your essay. Okay. The Marathi word is bharaun jane. Examiner should feel like reading your essay, enjoy, and the spontaneous feeling of the examiner should be, we want this quality in our administration. We want this quality. And then your essay reaches the crescendo and conclude. Actually, that conclusion is the punchline of your essay. It is not to be dry. दोरी तुटलेल्या पतंगासारखा लळत लोंबत, wavered, and the essay. No, the essay should end on a punchline. Perhaps the most important point, the conclusion, the essence comes in the concluding paragraph. So remember how you connect the opening paragraph and the closing paragraph. And also remember that the outline paragraph after the opening paragraph is not the summary of your essay, is not the conclusion of your essay, but you are going to define the theme of the essay. You are going to explain how you are going to develop the essay, and then various paragraphs as they reach the concluding part of the essay. Now my mind is saying that as usual, there is a lot. So I will not push myself. I will not rush. Let us continue day after tomorrow. And I will connect the remaining points with GS4. And I know that remaining points also will help you understand GS4 also better. And accordingly, our focus day after tomorrow is supposed to be mainly on section B of GS4, case study writing. So the remaining points, my mind is saying lot of points are still there. The ones I prepared to be shared with you today. So I'm telling myself not to hastily go through those points. I hope today's time has also, as usual, helped you enjoy. Meanwhile, we'll go on with day after tomorrow, but first part will be my continuation of what I'm saying today. That will automatically connect with the write-up of essay, a write-up of GS4 case studies. I'll only summarize in one line. Case study write-up is to be understood as a mini essay. Case study write-up about, say, 250 to 300 words. Okay? It's a mini essay. Case study write-up is not a short note. There is a difference in writing a short note of 150 words, 200 words, or also some answers in your optional subject. In optional, some questions could be 20 markers, and 20 mark could mean 300 words. So it means it's a mini essay. Similarly, write-up of case study is a mini essay. So we will continue with our essay points. I'm sure it will also help you write better quality answers in optional subject also and the case study. Okay. So let's continue on 24th. Hope then and beyond that also you enjoy. Like I hope you enjoyed today's session also. See you day after tomorrow.
जरी एक अश्रू पुसायास आला, तरी जन्म काहीच कामास आला.